Hey, this is C&D Channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for Bellator 99, Nunes versus Pitbull, Freire, which happens on September 13th. Overall, prospect-wise, there are some pretty good fighters on here. Some good returning fighters too. Vlagal Ivanov on the prelims, solid heavyweight. 20-year-old Goiti Yamauchi. Got some new faces like Andrew Fisher, Joe Taimanglo, Fabricio Guerreiro returns to Bellator. Lost to Frodos Valayev in his last outing. Desmond Green makes his Bellator debut. Return of Akop Stepanyan. Justin Wilcox, Strikeforce veteran, joins Bellator. And you got a strong main event with Patricio Pitbull Freire versus Diego Nunes. You also have a fight that probably would have been cool earlier, a couple of years ago in the UFC, as Houston Alexander fights Vladimir Matyushenko. My opinion of Bellator signing ex-UFC fighters, I don't mind it, but I don't see the purpose of doing it when they're just going to have two former UFC guys fighting each other. It makes a lot more sense when you have like the Bellator guy versus the former UFC guy. But with this, it's not. I mean, I understand they have some name value, but otherwise, good. I was hoping that. I know Christian Mpumu was supposed to fight Vladimir Matyushenko. I was hoping that they could have found a replacement that wasn't a former UFC guy against Matyushenko. Otherwise, let's get right to it. Okay, we have Patricio Pitbull Freire versus Diego the Gun Nunes. This is a really good fight. Diego Nunes for a long time was a top 10 UFC featherweight. He has an 18-4 record, 5 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub, 30 years old, training out of X Gym. He's trading wins and losses right now. He most recently lost to Nick Lentz, who is doing very well in the UFC. There's really no shame in losing to him. Lentz just beat Hakron Diaz. With Nunes, his style has always been the same. He's a good kickboxer. He uses a lot of kicks, kind of flashy at times, and he utilizes a lot of movement too. It kind of costs him a lot of times in the judges' scorecards. He didn't show it at a Lentz fight so much, but he's shown to have good takedown defense. Didn't really show it at a Lentz fight, but and he does have a decent ground game as well. However, he is fighting Pitbull, who is 18-2 record, 7 wins by KO or TKO, 7 wins by sub, 26 years old, training out of Team Nogueira. Guy has some really strong Muay Thai. He's a really accurate puncher too. You saw in the Jared Downing fight against Wilson Hayes. Even in the Pat Kern fight, he lost, but there was some great inside boxing in that fight as well. He has some pretty good hands. He's a Brazilian, if I'm not mistaken, he's a BJJ black belt. And his wrestling's improving as well. If you ever watch his Daniel Strauss fight, for example, he was using a lot more offensive takedowns and whatnot. Overall, I think that Patricio Pitbull Freire is going to win this one. It's a really good fight, though. But yeah, I'll go with Pitbull to win that one. Okay, next fight after that, Akop Stepanyan fights Justin Wilcox. Well, Wilcox is a Strikeforce veteran with an 11-5 record with 1 no contest, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 2 losses by sub. He's 34 years old and he's coming off a 2-fight losing streak. some pretty tough guys too. I want to say it's Takaros Fedor. He got knocked out in like less than a minute. And Jorge Masvidal. So, you know, not too much shame in losing to those guys, in my opinion. He trains out of AK. He's a good wrestler with some good top control. And even though he did get knocked out really quick by Fedor, his stand-up in certain fights, did he fight like... He painted the mat with somebody's blood. I want to say it's like Rodrigo Dam or something like that. But I could be wrong. One thing about Justin Wilcox is that he last fought in July 2012. With Stepanyan, he has a 13-5 record with 7 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub, but 3 losses by sub. He trains out of Rust Fighter Sports Club. Good kickboxing, really strong kicks. I remember when he fought like Marlon Sandro, he definitely avoided the ground game, was definitely getting the better of the stand-up. Good combination punching from him. He fights out of distance a lot of times and he uses some flashy kicks. Considering though, I mean, Wilcox definitely has an avenue of winning this, especially if he uses his wrestling and grinds out a victory. But otherwise, I think that Stepanyan's going to keep him at a distance and, just beat him up on the feet. I'll go with Akop Stepanyan to win that one. Next fight after that, they have Desmond Green versus Fabricio Guerreiro. This one's actually really tough for me to call. Desmond Green, though, 8-1 record with 1 TKO and 1 sub. He's only 23 years old and coming off a 2-fight win streak. Most recently beating UFC veteran Henry Martinez in an NEF event. He trains out of Team Bomb Squad. When I saw it, the only fight I've seen him actually is against Henry Martinez. His stand-up was pretty good. He moved around a lot. It wasn't great by any means. I'd say it's average. And in the first round of the fight, I liked his wrestling, though. I thought that was pretty solid. Of course, that's the only fight I've seen, so that's really what I can go on. Guerrero's, with him, the only time I've seen him fight is against Hospolayev. He has a 17-2 record with 1 no contest, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 12 wins by sub, and he's also only 23 years old. With Frodo, he's a guy that'll come at you, but I remember they having a really fun fight that was just non-stop, high pace, both guys pushing forward. It was a good fight, and with the 12 out of 17 wins, you know that Fabricio's got to have a good ground game. I'll go with Fabricio Guerreiro to win this one. Okay, next fight after that, Andrew Fisher fights Joe Taimanglo. Let's see. Well, with Fisher, he has a 12-4 record with 1 draw, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 7 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. He's on a 4-fight win streak. I did see his fight in Bama, actually, against Andy Green. It's the only fight I've really seen him in, actually. He's a good wrestler with a good ground. Against Green, he showed really good ground and pound. He got him with crucifix, punches, and elbows, He actually showed some pretty good wrestling in that one, too. He's fighting Joe Taimanglo, 18-4 record with 1 draw, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 11 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. Very similar fighters, actually, in that sense. And 2 losses by sub. So all of his losses have been by finish. He's 29 years old, on a 9-fight win streak. He has some solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. He's fought a lot in like PXC, a lot of stuff around Asia and whatnot. He did beat Ronnie Rogers by, like a north-south choke or something like that in his last fight. I think he might be able to take the fight to the ground and maybe even get the submission on Andrew Fisher. I'll go Joe Taimanglo to win this one. Okay, and the final fight on the main card, we have Houston Alexander versus Vladimir Matyushenko. Both these guys are UFC veterans. Houston Alexander is really well known for his stand-up. He's on a 2-fight win streak right now. He's a heavy-handed guy. He's got some good Muay Thai, some really good knees. But he's always had a weakness in grappling. And just his overall ground game was pretty bad. Chin isn't very good, as 5 of his losses are by KO or TKO. And actually, even his 2 losses are by sub. His cardio, I mean, you can watch the Kimbo Slice fight, and he's just like, barely, they're both barely able to stand. And a pretty lackluster fight, too. That was actually a very comical moment, seeing those two. Once the bell rang, they're just like, it's just funny. I probably made a funny motion there. Okay, but Vladimir Matyushenko, 26-7 record, 9 wins by KO TKO, 7 wins by sub. Not the greatest chin either, as 4 of his losses are by KO or TKO. Both these guys are in their late 40s, or early 40s. Why did I say late? Early 40s. Houston Alexander, 41 years old. Matyushenko, 42 years old. Matyushenko's on the 2-fight losing streak. They're from UFC guys. It was to Alexander Gustafsson and then to Ryan Bader. One thing about Matyushenko, despite not having the best chin, he's a grinder. I mean, he'll take you down. He'll clinch up with you. He'll have boring fights if he needs to. He's a good wrestler with some really good top control. He has shown some improving stand-up. I mean, did knock out like Jason Brills, for example. But otherwise, I mean, it's still something he's relatively weak at. But nonetheless, it's easier said than done, because Houston Alexander could just bum rush Matyushenko probably in the first round. But I think Matyushenko takes the fight to the ground, wears out Houston Alexander. So I'll go with Vladimir Matyushenko to win this one. Okay, on to the prelims. We have Savo Kosic versus Hector Ramirez. Okay, well, Hector Ramirez has no pro MMA bouts, and he's 1-0 as an amateur. Whereas Savo Kosic's 4-1. He has a 4-1 pro MMA record with 2 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. 24 years old on a 2-fight win streak. I'm going to go with Savo Kosic to win this one. Next fight after that, Andy Murad fights Musa Toliver. Murad has a 6-0 undefeated record with 2 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. Oops, my bad. Why did I say that? Andy Murad fights Gavin Starrett. Oh man, why did I say that? Okay, so Andy Murad has a 6-0 undefeated record with 2 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. And Gavin Starrett has a 4-1 record with 1 win by TKO, 3 wins by sub. So he is a finisher. But I'll go with the undefeated Andy Murad to win this one. Next fight after that, Musa Toliver fights Goiti Yamauchi. Toliver has a 9-8 record with 1 draw, 1 win by TKO, 8 wins by decision. He has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 5 losses by sub. Trains at Body Shop Fitness, Antonio McKee's gym. With Goiti Yamauchi, though, 14-1 record, 12 wins by sub, 2 wins by decision, only 20 years old. He has a 9-fight win streak, some really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's fighting a guy who has 5 losses by submission. I gotta go with Goiti Yamauchi to win this one. He's actually a prospect that I've been hearing some good stuff about. Okay, next fight after that, Manny Lara fights Blago Ivanov. Well, Ivanov has 7 wins, no losses, and 1 no contest. 4 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He's 26 years old on a 5-fight win streak. He last fought in December 2011. I believe he was stabbed close to or at the heart. And and was in critical condition, actually. I'm really glad to see him back because I thought he was a very solid heavyweight prospect. He's not very tall. He's only 5'11". But you can tell by his build, I don't know if he can cut to 205. And he's only 26 years old. He has a Sambo background, some good takedown ability. And his stand-up was greatly improving last time I saw him in Bellator. I believe he fought, Zach Jensen? And I think he knocked him out standing, if I'm not mistaken. Manny Lara has a 4-3 record with 3 wins by KO or TKO and 1 win by decision. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, and he trains out of Reign MMA. This fight, I gotta go with Blagow Ivanov. Like I said, I think he's a very solid heavyweight prospect. I hope he is in the next Bellator heavyweight tournament. A lot of these Eastern European guys that are fighting at heavyweight. You have Volkov, you have Minikov, you have Ivanov, you have all the obs, Okay, and finally we have Nick Moghadam versus Virgil Zwicker. Okay, Nick has a 6-6 record with 1 draw, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. He's 30 years old on a 2-fight losing streak. Virgil Zwicker has a 10-3 record, 7 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He's 31 years old, trains out of Team Quest. This guy's chin is like freaking granite, man. You see his last fight in Strikeforce against Guto Inocente. Guto was hitting him with everything but the kitchen sink. And the kitchen sink, pretty much. Knees, punches. I mean, he is just taking it, man. The only time he's been knocked out was against LeVar Johnson. And that is totally understandable. Because LeVar Johnson just hits super hard. Otherwise, yeah, he's never been knocked out. Really resilient guy. Pushes forward. He's kind of a brawler. I'll go with Virgil Zwicker to win this one. And that's pretty much it for my predictions for Bellator 99, Nunes versus Pitbull. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.